It's the Young Turks. He's almost jumped the shark. It's almost over. Tell your friends, family, neighbors, Randy Gonzalez, watch the Young Turks today. We're so close. My God, if I am right that he goes down before the midterms, God help you all. You will never be able to contain my head in another room again. I don't care if we're in a frickin' stadium, you will not be able to contain my head. He's circling the drain, brothers and sisters. He's circling it, man. Robert Mueller has this queued up.
Show me the batuk.
Okay. Oh, and I know what Trump's thinking.
That's what makes it so bad.
Okay. It's almost over. I know you're gonna think I'm crazy for saying it. Well, you've been thinking I'm crazy all this time. But it is circling the drain. It is circling the drain. It's almost over for Trump. I know, but listen, I'm gonna show it to you. You know me. I'm gonna back it up with facts. I'm gonna show you why I think he's in a world of trouble. That interview he did on Fox, disaster, disaster. He shouldn't have done any of that. Okay, so oh my God, it is one confession after another after another. I got so many clips from it. You're gonna love it. You're gonna be awesome. I think he's losing his own guys. He's losing Republicans. He's losing his base. He's losing his mind. Okay, it's the Young Turks tonight, everybody. Okay, so look, whatever you do, I need you to understand something. Do not miss any part of this show. One way to good way to do that, become a member. You never miss any part of any show again. tyt.com/join. Okay, now Trump's gonna have a lot of free time soon. Maybe he'll like to be a member. All right, we're going over here and getting started. So I want to be crystal clear that Donald Trump is a liar. Now you've heard me say this many times because it is obvious. Anyone going around pretending that the emperor has clothes on, I got bad news for you. He ain't got no clothes on. In fact, he's going around saying,
show me the batuk.
Okay, and they did. He shows us the buttock and everything else because he doesn't have clothes on. He's an unbelievable liar. Now, it's okay, I'm gonna prove it to you. I want you to send this video to your MAGA friends. If you have MAGA friends, by the way, God help you. All right, anyway, that's all right. You got family members, that happens all the time. Brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles. If your dad got brainwashed by Fox, send this video to him. Because I'm curious what they think. They'll say, oh, that big loudmouth, I can't stand him. But don't worry about that. Look at the videos and make your own judgment call. Are you human? Do you have cognitive abilities? Do you still believe in logic and reason? Watch the videos of Trump. You don't have to worry about anything I'm saying. And then you tell me whether this guy's a liar or not. So it's on the issue of Michael Cohen. He went and talked to Ainsley Earhart of Fox News and claimed, Michael Cohen, me, I barely even know him. We'll get to that later in the show. In this case, he says, okay, fine, all right, I made the payments to Stormy Daniels. So here, watch for yourself.
Did you know about the payments?
Later on, I knew, later on. But you have to understand, Ainsley, what he did, and they weren't taken out of campaign finance. That's a big thing. That's a much bigger thing. Did they come out of the campaign? They didn't come out of the campaign. They came from me, and I tweeted about it. You know, I don't know if you know, but I tweeted.
He tweeted about it. He says, they came from me. The payments to Stormy Daniels came from me. This is Donald Trump earlier on Air Force One when he was confronted months ago, and he thought he could still cover it up. Watch.
Did you know about the $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels? Then why did Michael Cohen make it if there was no truth or allegation?
Well, you have to ask Michael Cohen. Michael's my attorney, and you'll have to ask Michael.
Do you know where he got the money to make that payment?
No, I don't know.
No, I didn't know about the payments. No, I don't know where he got the money. And he just said on Fox News, it was me, it was me. So obviously he knew all along. I don't know how you're gonna deny it. In fact, I'm curious, leave a comment below. How on God's green earth do you look at those two videos and not realize that he was obviously lying? He was obvious. And if you say, hey, look, I know it, he's a liar. He lies all the time. He lied about this because it's embarrassing. He slept with a porn star and he wanted to cover it up, and then he broke campaign finance laws. What are you gonna do? I'd lie too if I had already broken the other laws. Okay, fair. Just don't say he's not a liar. But of course, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, another professional liar, has to step in and say this.
Or lied to the American people, because so many people now look back at that tape of him on Air Force One saying he knew nothing about these payments, when in fact we now know he knew everything about these payments. So has he lied?
Look, again, I think that's a ridiculous accusation. The president in this matter has done nothing wrong.
A ridiculous accusation. Look at the two tapes. Hey, listen, you know what? In case it's hard for you to see the two tapes, you don't have the ability to rewind, whatever it is, we're gonna put them all together for you guys, including the tape that Michael Cohen released of Michael Cohen and Donald Trump talking about the payments before the campaign. Watch.
They weren't taken out of campaign finance. That's a big thing. That's a much bigger thing. Did they come out of the campaign? They didn't come out of the campaign.
Did you know about the $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels?
They came from me, and I tweeted about it. You know, I don't know if you know, but I tweeted.
Why did Michael Cohen make it if there was no truth or allegation?
Well, you have to ask Michael Cohen. Michael's my attorney, and you'll have to ask Michael.
I've actually come up and I've spoken to Alan Weisselberg about how to set the whole thing up with
So what are we going to pay?
funding. Yes.
Do you know where he got the money to make that payment?
No, I don't know.
End of this. So if you still don't think he's a liar, okay, you purposely want to be ignorant. That's okay, that's your call to make, brother, okay? But it is evident to anyone who cares about the truth that Donald Trump lied at a bare minimum about the Stormy Daniels story. Admit it, and let's move on. Now, the reality is he's lied thousands of times, over and over again, and he gets caught, and he lies within the same sentence, within the same interview. It's so obvious. My last question to the MAGA guys is, what is it? Like, I get if you support his policies, I don't agree with you, but I understand that, that's not complicated. But why do you keep defending him on things that are indefensible? If I was you, like for example, in fact, I was you. Look, I was a Republican and I switched later on, but even so, when Bill Clinton was being impeached, I thought it was wrong to impeach him because I'm like, look, you got oral sex from someone who was, doing it in a consensual way, etc. I'm like, did he lie about it? Of course he lied about it, but I don't think you should impeach him over it. But at least I said the obvious thing of course he lied about it. Can't you at least say that at a bare minimum? And then say, okay, maybe you raise your hand and say, you know what, it's no big deal, or I like liars, whatever it floats your boat. But you can under no circumstances say that he's not a liar because he most obviously is. Okay, I think I was very clear about that. We're gonna move forward. Okay, now, this was a doozy, okay. Donald Trump on Fox talking to Ainsley Earhardt about Michael Cohen. He's going to say something unbelievable, even for Donald Trump. I swear to God, when I saw this, I was shocked. And I know how much he lies. I know how pathological he is. I know how nuts he is. And even I was surprised. Listen to this.
Michael Cohen, tell me about your relationship with him.
Well, he was a lawyer for me for one of many. They always say the lawyer, and then they like to add the fixer. Well, I don't know if there's a fixer. I don't know where that term came from, but he's been a lawyer for me. Didn't do big deals, did small deals. Not somebody that was with me that much. They make it sound like I didn't live without him. I understood Michael Cohen very well. What turned out he wasn't a very good lawyer, frankly. But he was somebody that was probably with me for about 10 years. And I would see him sometimes.
I would see him sometimes. He's a minor lawyer. Who's Michael Cohen? Who's Michael Cohen? I barely knew the guy. I can go on and on. Here's a tweet. Michael, a fine person, is a part of a tweet that he wrote before. Michael, a fine person with a wonderful family. Michael's a businessman for his own account / lawyer who I've always liked and respected. Now, Michael Cohen, they say I was with him. Was I with him? Yeah, 10 years. But did I really know him? Small time. I barely knew him. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so look, guys, let's be fair. Maybe he doesn't have that good a memory. So let's ask Donald Trump if he's got a good memory. Maybe he forgot.
I don't have teleprompters here, folks. I don't need teleprompters. It's called
up here, and it's called memory, and it's called other things.
I have a good memory and all that stuff, like a great memory. I have a really good memory.
And I have a very good memory. I have a good memory, like a great memory.
I have a great memory. I'm blessed with a great memory.
One of the great memories of all time.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of On the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, you must unlearn what you have learned. And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
Listen, maybe you don't, you could look at that video, the first video of Donald Trump, and say, well, look, I don't know, maybe he's not saying he barely knew him. He's just saying, oh, I had a lot of lawyers and he was just one of my minor lawyers. He was the lawyer. He was known as his Victor for a reason. He was the lawyer. Who's the lawyer that you trust most? The one who's going to make the payments to the mistresses for you, right? That's not a minor lawyer. He didn't get you out of a traffic ticket. But I love that, I mean, look, it's a minor. It's not like I live with the guy, right? And then the clip where he's like, it's called the memory. It's called other things. Did you forget the other things that it's called? This guy's an unreal buffoon. Oh my God. I just realized some people look up to this guy. Oh, that's the saddest thing I've ever heard. Oh, now all of a sudden I feel terrible for you. Go find another role model, man. Not one who's like, it's called the memory. It's called other things. Okay. It got dark there for a second when I thought, wow, some people think that guy's smart. Okay. All right. We're moving forward. It keeps getting better and better. Okay. Are we on to sessions? We're on to flipping, right? Is this the flipping one? Okay. Oh, there you go. Thank you. Another one that's unbelievable. Every one of these is unbelievable. Okay. Donald Trump on Fox News, unreal interview, basically admitting almost everything. He says, yeah, I made the payments to Stormy Daniels. It was me. And Michael Cohen, his lawyer and fixer, flipped on him. What do you think about flipping? Now, hold on. What would you think about somebody who cooperated with law enforcement? I'd think he cooperated with law enforcement. If you like law enforcement, that makes sense. Now, if you're a criminal, you wouldn't like him at all. You'd call him a rat. You'd call him things like that. You say, I can't believe it. That's the mob guys, etc. They say, oh, no, you can't believe it flipped. So now, if you haven't seen it yet, now it's great. We'll get to find out together which side is Donald Trump on. Let's watch.
One of the reasons I respect Paul Manafort so much is he went through that trial. You know, they make up stories. People make up stories. This whole thing about flipping, they call it. I know all about flipping. For 30, 40 years, I've been watching flippers. Everything's wonderful, and then they get 10 years in jail, and they flip on whoever the next highest one is, or as high as you can go. It almost ought to be outlawed. It's not fair. In all fairness to him, most people are going to do that. And I've seen it many times. I've had many friends involved in this stuff. It's called flipping, and it almost ought to be illegal. You get 10 years in jail, but if you say bad things about somebody, in other words, make up stories, if you don't know, make up stories, they just make up lies.
Wow. Cooperating with law enforcement ought to be illegal. Okay, look, I'll tell you this. You're still a MAGA guy and you think, well, I mean, of course, you don't want the guy to, flip on you. Every prosecutor in the country right now is going, that guy's guilty. I don't care how Republican they are. I don't care if they have 7 MAGA hats in their closet. They watch that and go, oh, no, that guy's totally guilty, 100% guilty. Okay, I mean, you don't like these flippers, all right? I mean, we should be illegal to flip and to talk to law enforcement. What kind of a rat talks to law enforcement? You know what I'm saying? Okay, so I've known these flippers for 30, 40 years. First of all, who says that? Okay, second of all, really? Do you know any flippers, guys? I mean, I don't know, maybe like somebody was involved in some sort of crime in your family or somebody you knew and they flipped. Maybe you know one, right? I don't know any. Maybe you know one. This guy's known flippers for 30, 40 years? Why? Maybe because, like I've been telling you all along, he's a lifelong criminal. No, I know these guys, they go and flip. They flip on people. Did you know that Donald Trump used the same lawyer as some of the top mob figures in New York? In fact, they used to provide concrete for him, okay? And he hired Roy Cohen, and it's the same mob lawyer that was used by so many others. Originally the Italian mob, and then later the Russian mob. So he knows these guys because he's been working with these guys. And by the way, I use the word rat. Now, is that fair? Because Trump didn't say rat in that video. Well, let's go to a tweet from earlier. And he said, the failing New York Times wrote a fake piece today implying that because White House counsel Don McGahn was given hours of testimony to the special counsel, of course misspelled, he must be a John T. Dean type rat. But I allowed him and all others to testify, I didn't have to, etc. He refers to John Dean as a rat there. John Dean was the person who turned evidence on Richard Nixon. But the evidence he turned was correct. Richard Nixon left office in disgrace. No one disputes that John Dean told the truth. Even Nixon doesn't dispute it. He left, he resigned because they got him. But in Trump's mind, oh, what a rat. I can't believe he ratted on Nixon. I know these flippers and these rats, right? All right, Jonathan Chait in New York Magazine had a really good article about it. He explained how, even a Trump friend, by the way, last November said, referring to the Mueller investigation, it's an investigation is a classic Gambino style roll up, okay? And so what's a roll up? We're gonna explain. Chait says it's obviously quite rare to hear a high ranking elected official openly embrace the terminology and moral logic of the La Cosa Nostra, okay? And that is the mob guys, they hate rats and they don't like people flipping. Why? Because they flip on them. So here's how the roll-up works. The roll-up moves from the bottom to the top. It would be extremely difficult to prosecute any organized crime if it were not possible to trade lenient sentences in return for cooperation. That's why I said every prosecutor in the country knows he's guilty, because that's prosecutor 101. You go in and you say, okay, you got a minor drug dealer. Hey, if you give me information on the guy that is the major drug dealer, I'll give you a more lenient sentence. That's how you get the major drug dealer, okay? In this case, they go to the minor criminals like Michael Cohen, etc., and they roll on the major criminals like Donald Trump. That's why Donald Trump doesn't like it. There's this great quote, one more from Chait, where he said, he explains why the mafia guys care about loyalty the most. He said, since the greatest threat to a mafia don's business is that subordinates will betray him, he typically surrounds himself with family members, even if they are not the smartest or best criminals. Oh, ding, 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 ding. Donald Trump to a T. You're wondering why he hires a bunch of incompetents like Rudy Giuliani and it's a murderer's row of fools and idiots. It's because he's not choosing based on merit, he's choosing based on loyalty. That's why he's so mad at Jeff Sessions for not being loyal, what he calls loyal to him. In another part of the interview, he explained that, where he said, oh yeah, I can't believe I chose this guy because he was one of the first to support me and then he wasn't loyal to me. He's not supposed to be loyal to you. He's the Attorney General, he's supposed to be loyal to the American citizens. He's supposed to be a lawyer for them, not a personal lawyer for the president. But since Donald Trump is a lifelong criminal who hates flippers and rats, the main thing he chooses on is loyalty. If you're loyal to me, that's all I care about. I don't care how incompetent you are or how you represent the American people. Don't be ridiculous. He acts just like a mafia boss, except an incredibly dumb one. Mob bosses don't go on television and go, I don't like rats. I don't like people who flip on me. I don't like it, okay? Yeah, did I make the payment? Yeah, I made the payment. But I hired this guy and he wasn't loyal to me. So I'm thinking about firing him now to cover up. You know what I'm saying? The world's dumbest mob boss. That's who Donald Trump is. Okay, let's go to Sessions. I'm not done with this guy yet. We got a lot, man. It's a hell of a show. Okay. Donald Trump, in an amazing interview with Fox News, kept spilling the beans on himself. Okay, admitting things he should not admit. Now, in an earlier interview with NBC, he got himself in a lot of trouble a while back now when he told Lester Holt that he fired James Comey because he was doing the Russia investigation. Why would you admit that? Look, there's a reason why I call him stupid. It's frustrating that people don't acknowledge the most obvious things in the world. The guy's a pathological liar, and he's incredibly stupid.
At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your active ID more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today.
And they're like, no, but maybe he's doing a strategy, and the strategy is pretending to be stupid and doing stupid things over and over again, and then later maybe it leads to somewhere. No, it doesn't lead anywhere. He's a moron. So he did it again. He's talking about Jeff Sessions. Jeff Sessions is the Attorney General for the United States of America. He's not Donald Trump's personal lawyer. He's supposed to represent justice. The Justice Department reports into him. Jeff Sessions recused himself from the Russia investigation because he was involved in it. He lied to Congress during his confirmation hearings about having meetings with the Russians. He said he didn't when he did. The bare minimum he could do is recuse himself from that case. But Donald Trump, it drives him crazy. Now, if you were a smart, crooked person, you would say, oh no, I have other issues with Jeff. No, the fact that he didn't protect me personally. Well, the Attorney General's not supposed to do that. No, I was worried that he missed a comma there and he didn't apply my policy correctly there. You're supposed to be sophisticated. You're supposed to know how to actually get to the same result while not accidentally admitting that you're in the middle of a cover-up. But he can't do it. He can't do it. So here he is attacking Sessions and the Justice Department over and over again. Let's start with this first clip.
Will you fire him? Will you fire Sessions?
Well, I'll tell you what. As I've said, I wanted to stay uninvolved. But when everybody sees what's going on in the Justice Department, I always put justice now with quotes, it's a very, very sad day. Jeff Sessions recused himself, which he shouldn't have done, or he should have told me.
Okay, for the 100th time, he shouldn't have recused himself. Why? So if the investigation is impartial, why would you care about Sessions recusing himself? You would only care if you didn't want it to be impartial, but it doesn't matter. He's gonna admit that it's all about loyalty anyway. He's unbelievable. You're not supposed to say that. He's so stupid. How can you not see it? All right, so, and I call it it's your Justice Department. You're the president. It's the Justice Department that reports into you. You hired Sessions and Rod Rosenstein and the head of the FBI. And then when they actually do their jobs and they're like, thank you for hiring me, but it looks like you might be guilty. Or look, we need to do an investigation. Look, they want him. I mean, they all got hired by him. They probably want to clear him, but they got to do their job. They got to do the investigation. And he's like, "Oh, you're doing your job. I thought you weren't going to do your job. I thought you were going to be loyal to me." All right, so here he is again attacking.
The Dems are very strong in the Justice Department. I put an attorney general that never took control of the Justice Department, Jeff Sessions, never took control of the Justice Department, and it's a sort of an incredible thing.
Yeah, it is an incredible thing that you're claiming that the Democrats run the Justice Department when they're all Republicans. They're all appointed by you. You appointed them. They're really right-wing Republicans. Sessions is, Rosenstein's a Republican, Mueller's a Republican. Okay, they're all Republicans. The head of the FBI today is a Republican. To run by the Democrats is a really sad thing. So now Sessions had to respond because he says you're not even in control of your own department. So Sessions says this, God, antagonizing the attorney general if you want him to be on your side. Another brilliant strategy by Donald Trump. So Sessions says, I took control of the Department of Justice the day I was sworn in, which is why we had an unprecedented success at effectuating the president's agenda, one that protects the safety and security and rights of the American people, reduces violent crime, enforces our immigration laws, promotes economic growth, and advances religious liberty. So, look, I read that to you, one, because he's saying, look, I took control of it. What do you mean it's not under control? It's under control and we're trying to enforce the laws. The second reason I read that first part to you is Sessions is massively right-wing. He was one of the most right-wing senators. I can't stand that he's the attorney general. Sessions would joke around about how much he liked the Klan. You can say he was joking, but those are the kind of jokes that Sessions makes. To paint Sessions as pro-Democrat, beyond preposterous. But the second part of the statement is more important. Here's what Sessions said. While I am Attorney General, the actions of the Department of Justice will not be improperly influenced by political considerations. I demand the highest standards, and where they are not met, I take action. However, no nation has more talented, more dedicated group of law enforcement investigators and prosecutors than the United States. I am proud to serve with them and proud of the work we have done in successfully advancing the rule of law. Tick, 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 tick. So this idiot of idiots, Donald Trump, is going around antagonizing the Attorney General, which the Justice Department reports into. What do you think Sessions is going to do? He's going to stay in the role. He's going to continue to recuse himself because it would be preposterous to do otherwise. And he's certainly going to say, by all means, continue the investigation into the guy who nonstop attacks me and probably gives Jeff Sessions the worst insult of his life by calling him aligned with Democrats, right? He's like, me, a Democrat? Do you know what I think about the Klan? Okay, so he's like, no, we got it, brother, but I got some great prosecutors and we're gonna do the rule of law and we're gonna see where it goes. Why would you antagonize that guy? He's so stupid. All right, I'm not done. Okay, now, how about the idea that I've been saying that he gave Sessions the job because of loyalty? Well, let's ask Donald Trump.
By the way, he was on the campaign. You know, the only reason I gave him the job because I felt loyalty. He was an original supporter. He was on the campaign. He knows there was no collusion.
The only reason I gave him the job was loyalty. The only reason. Why would you say that? You're basically saying, I expected loyalty from this guy, but he won't cover up for my rule breaking. The Attorney General is not supposed to be, quote unquote, loyal to the president, especially if there's a criminal investigation of him. That's an outrageous request. It's a request a criminal would do to cover up a story. But it's so outrageous because only the world's dumbest criminal would admit it on national television. Believe it or not, he's still not done talking. If I was his lawyer, I would have tackled him in the middle of the interview. Okay, watch.
Even my enemies say that Jeff Sessions should have told you that he was going to recuse himself and then you wouldn't have put him in. He took the job and then he said, I'm going to recuse myself. I said, what kind of a man is this?
What kind of a man is this? The Attorney General works for the United States of America and the citizens of that country. Takes an oath of loyalty, not to the president, not to the person, but to the United States Constitution. And their job is to enforce the law. And if they have a conflict of interest, which Jeff Sessions clearly does, they are supposed to recuse themselves. They are not supposed to take charge of the investigation and end the investigation because the president is actually a criminal and did it. That is not their job. The fact that he doesn't understand that and admits it on national television is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. I know that as a country, we've gotten used to what a liar he is, what a criminal he is, and how stupid he is, but not enough, not enough. Some people still think that he's a smart businessman. The guy went bankrupt 6 times. All he ever got was daddy's money, and he's been a serial bungler ever since. But when you bungle at this level, and you do it on national television with incredibly serious crimes you might have committed, and you talk about how people should protect you and stop investigations, legitimate investigations of you, well, you might have bungled your way into really, really serious trouble. Look, he's the president. They'll probably cut him a deal to just get him the hell out of there. He should go to prison for all the laws that he's broken. I don't know if he ever will, because at some point somebody's going to make a deal with this guy. But the fact that he wanted to obstruct justice and admits it on TV for the whole world to see is the most obvious thing in the world. The only person who can't see that that's obstructing justice are people who are blinded and think, no, I don't care. He hates the same people I hate. He can do anything he likes. For every other rational person out there, I've never seen a more clear case of a guy who is guilty and is dying to cover it up and is so stupid, he just tells you that he's looking to cover it up on television. It's unreal. Every day it gets crazier. Young Turks. All right, back on the Young Turks. I got some comments for you guys. JM Staley writes in on Twitter, I love the sound of "told you so," Cenk. Sounds like victory. Okay, so we're close. We're not quite there yet. Okay, but I am looking forward to it. Okay. Oh man, the day that he leaves office, all you're gonna, I'm gonna do the ladies and gentlemen, you got him, etc. But you're gonna hear a lot of this. America, America, America will be back. Okay. All right, YouTube super chat. Juan Lanuza writes in, Giuliani said that if Trump were to get impeached, the American people would revolt. What's your take on that, Cenk? I feel like his base would, but doubt anybody else would. Of course nobody else is going to. First of all, 2/3 of the country is going to be ecstatic. Okay, here, I'll make a prediction right now. There will literally be celebrations in the street. The day that Trump leaves office, and my guess is that that's going to be soon, and certainly well before 2020, people will literally pour into the streets in celebration. Now, will his own base be pissed? Oh, hugely pissed. But Trump, if he leaves voluntarily, will not leave unless the Republicans stop backing him. Like that he was so guilty that even the Republicans were like, look, man, we trade anything for more tax cuts. And you got $2 trillion of tax cuts for the rich. We love that. But even so, you're so incredibly guilty, you gotta go. If the Republicans have done that, the base is going to be even more pissed. And yes, some percentage of them will not believe it, and yes, they'll be in a fury. But I don't know what they will do, but my guess is we're gonna have rule of law in the country. I mean, they can try anything they like, and they can go in the woods and play their little games, but at some point, we're gonna have law and order back in the country. On the other hand, if Trump stays and tries to fight this, oh boy, that is a mess. That's an unreal mess. But at the end of that, the only good news that comes out of that is he will lose, and then he'll wind up in handcuffs. My guess is, though, that he will resign. We'll find out. Okay, let's go over here and do more news. Okay. Ainsley Earhart interviewed Donald Trump on Fox News. It was, at this point, I would argue, an instant classic. Okay, he admitted all the things he shouldn't admit. That Jeff Sessions was picked because of loyalty. He was upset that he wasn't loyal to him and recused himself from the case. Basically, it's an admission of obstruction of justice. He admitted that he made the payments to Stormy Daniels, and the list went on and on. Rudy Giuliani and every other lawyer Donald Trump has should be immediately disbarred for letting him go on television and say those things on the record. But how about Manafort? So Cohen flipped on him. Trump said, oh, he doesn't like flippers. He thinks maybe flippers should be illegal. Okay, in other words, no one should ever cooperate with law enforcement. Manafort did not cooperate with law enforcement, and Trump loves that. Look, there's a juror on the Manafort case who said she was a diehard Trump supporter, came in and wanted to make sure that Manafort was innocent. She listened to the case and she's like, nope, he's totally guilty. I really didn't want him to be guilty, but he was definitely guilty. Okay, so he cheated on his taxes, he committed fraud, he's now convicted on 8 charges. So any rational person, let alone the president of the United States who took an oath to the Constitution to enforce the law, a guy who brags about being law and order, would say, well, I mean, this is a convicted criminal and not a good guy. Trump, for 2 days straight, has been talking about, oh, Manafort, a brave man. And now he didn't flip, okay? He didn't work with law enforcement. He's such a good guy. I mean, how is it not clear to you that Trump's a criminal? Okay, fine. But if Manafort, who was convicted on other counts, not having to do with Trump, and I've said that every time, right? If Manafort doesn't have anything on Trump, then Trump doesn't have to worry about him flipping, because Manafort did his crimes related to his representation of pro-Russian Ukrainian president, and that led all the way up to 2017. But that's his business, not Trump's business. Why would Trump even care? Now, as I told you on the show yesterday, he would care if Manafort has incriminating evidence about Donald Trump's crimes, in which case he would want to reward Manafort for not flipping on him and give him a pardon. And I told you yesterday on the show, well, you're going to have your answer if he's considering a pardon. And of course, it turns out, of course, he's considering a pardon. Here's the person who did the interview with him. This is what she said recently. Listen.
I noticed in his comments yesterday he mentioned Manafort, but not Michael.
He mentioned pardoning Manafort, and then you have Michael Cohen's attorney, Lanny Davis.
He did mention pardoning Manafort.
He did, and said that he would consider that. I think he feels bad for Manafort.
Yeah, he feels bad for him. That's probably why. So there it is. The Fox News anchor who interviewed him saying, yeah, he's definitely considering a pardon for Manafort. Now, that didn't play well, so that was last night. So she goes back on Fox this morning. I mean, did I say definitively? Well, here's what I meant instead.
And he also said he was never going to, he never said he was going to pardon Paul Manafort, but it sounded like to me that he might be considering it, but he never said yes, and he never said no.
Backpedal, 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 backpedal. I think she won the gold, right? Was it in China or Russia? She won which Olympics did she win the gold in backpedaling? Okay, remember you work for Fox News. Okay, all right. Oh yeah. I mean, did he say it? Could have said it. Could have not said it. I don't know. Okay, so she was incredibly clear the first time around. So that led a lot of people, including prominent Republicans, to go, oh, for Christ's sake. Now, Ari Fleischer was a spokesperson for George W. Bush when he was the president. Not only obviously right-wing Republican, but he's been all over TV defending Donald Trump for months and months. So solidly reliable defender and supporter of Donald Trump. Here's what he had to tweet. I don't care for Trump's style. He can be too offensive and divisive. I like many of his policies. If he fires Mueller / pardons Manafort, I'd consider impeachment. And now he went on to say, but nothing so far merits impeachment. The remedy for those who can't stand him is political. Beat him in 20 if you can. But people were like, whoa, you ardent Trump supporter just used the word impeachment if he pardons Manafort, which apparently he's considering. So he had to explain. He explained in further tweets. People are asking me why firing / pardoning might make me support impeachment. Here's why. Trump has a constitutional right to do both. But I believe either one would be obstruction of justice designed to protect himself. That's not the purpose of those presidential powers. And he went on to add, I also think firing a subordinate officer like Comey is different. Comey had other duties and lost the trust of POTUS. Mueller's only job is to investigate Trump. Firing Mueller would be an attempt to interfere with the investigation. Now, I don't agree with him on Comey. Donald Trump clearly said on national television, I fired him because of the Russia investigation. Clear obstruction of justice. But Ari Fleischer defended him all through that. But he's like, if you fire Mueller, it's not like Mueller has other responsibilities. It's not like, well, you know, he runs a car wash and he's a dentist on the weekend, so he might have fired him for being a bad dentist. No, his job is to investigate Donald Trump. If you fire him while he's investigating you, that is the most clear obstruction of justice anyone has ever seen. Now, Manafort just got convicted of all these crimes, but he might have information on you. If you pardon him so that he doesn't give that information, now that he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison, that would be clear obstruction of justice. Even Lindsey Graham couldn't defend Donald Trump on this one. Watch.
Speculation that Trump might pardon Manafort, is that something that you would support?
If I spent my time talking about what people speculate Trump would do, I would have no other thing to talk about. I don't think a pardon under these circumstances would go over well. I think a lot of people probably feel bad, but that's different than using the power of the presidency. Again, a pardon in this circumstance would be perceived by many Americans as, interfering with an investigation.
Damn. He's losing his most ardent supporters. Lindsey Graham loved those tax cuts that Trump got for the rich. Lindsey Graham is working with the president to try to push for war in Iran. He's got a lot of incentive to keep working with Donald Trump. And he's like, but if you pardon Manafort, what do you want me to do? It's so clearly interfering with an investigation. Tick, 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 tick. He's alienated even people within his own government, like Jeff Sessions, the entire FBI, the entire Justice Department, which was incredibly foolish on his part. He's alienated so many Republicans who would have to vote on impeachment proceedings and then eventually conviction in the Senate. He's obviously alienated everyone else in the country. He has almost no allies left. Michael Flynn, who was his national security advisor, has flipped on him. Papadopoulos, who worked on his campaign, has flipped on him. Michael Cohen, his personal lawyer and fixture, has flipped on him. And the list goes on and on. Gates flipped on him. And all those indictments have rained down on people who worked on his campaign and administration. Tick, 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 tick. Tick, 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 tick. He's running out of time. Okay. But I haven't gotten to the most damning story. Let's do that one now. The owner of the national, well, is he the owner? Hold on, let me get you the exact. He's the chairman. Let me be more accurate. Okay. The chief executive of the company that owns the National Enquirer is a guy named David Pecker. He's the CEO of American Media Incorporated. Now, why is he relevant in politics these days? He's a very good friend of Donald Trump. He's been friends with him since the 1990s. Well, okay, that's no crime, no problem at all. But the problem is that David Pecker has bought a number of stories and prevented them from ever airing. The reason he bought them was to spike them. It's called catch and kill. And who did he do that to benefit? He did it to benefit Donald Trump. Now, everybody had a very clear sense that that's why he was doing it. And in the case of Karen McDougal, one of the Playboy models that Donald Trump slept with while married to another woman, Pecker came in and bought that story, the rights to that story for $150,000, and then never ran in the National Enquirer. Now, what kind of a guy running a media organization spends that kind of money and doesn't run the story? It was super obvious all along that he was working in collaboration with Donald Trump and during the campaign. And during the campaign, by the way, unrelated to this, National Enquirer ran outrageous stories about Donald Trump's main Republican opponent, Ted Cruz. Anybody who watches the Young Turks knows I can't stand Ted Cruz. I got no love for him. But when the National Enquirer hinted that Cruz's dad might have killed JFK, that was preposterous. When they said that Ted Cruz had 5 mistresses, have you seen Ted Cruz? Okay, maybe the most outrageous lie the National Enquirer has ever printed. But he gets a story about Donald Trump leading in the Republican race. Man, that would be a mega story. He's got a mistress. The mistress tells the story to the National Enquirer and they spike and they never run it. So it was already obvious. But now it's over. David Pecker, the chief executive of the company that publishes the National Enquirer, was granted immunity by federal prosecutors for providing information about Michael Cohen and President Trump in the criminal investigation into hush money payments for two women during the 2016 presidential campaign, according to people familiar with the matter. Tick, 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 tick. Cohen flipped, and even his own Pecker flipped. And now his relationship with his Pecker apparently has been severed. So he's in a world of trouble, a world of trouble. One more detail here from the Wall Street Journal. In exchange for immunity, Pecker, the CEO of American Media Incorporated and a longtime friend of Trump, has met with prosecutors and shared details about payments Cohen arranged in an effort to silence two women who alleged sexual encounters with Trump, including Trump's knowledge of the deals, some of the people said. Na 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 na. I know that Donald Trump keeps going around going, campaign finance violations. I don't even know if they are violations. It's kind of in the title. He says, Michael Cohen pled guilty to these charges, but I don't even know if they're crimes. He pled guilty. They accepted his plea. He's going to prison. I'm pretty sure they're crimes. But when Cohen and David Pecker say, yes, we did pay hush money. Yes, Donald Trump ordered us to. And yes, it was to help the campaign. That is definitely 100% a campaign finance violation and a felony. Na 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 na. Soon Donald Trump might hear this in prison.
Show me the batuk.
Wow, he is in a world of trouble. I predicted that a long time ago that he would leave office before the midterms. Now there's very little time before the midterms, and people keep asking me, are you gonna change your prediction? Nope. He's circling the drain. Almost gone. How much more evidence do you need? Prosecutors, they've got him on so many different things. But if he's lost his Pecker, he's in a world of hurt. Okay, I gotta take a quick break here. Believe it or not, when I come back, because I am the fairest man in America over here, I will defend a Trump supporter. What? And he's a terrible guy. So I'll explain when we return. We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. Young Turks, first your comments. We go to Twitter, #TYT Live, talk to us during the show. Gabby Marita says, oh, hey, there's Sean Hannity, referring to one of the clips we played. I forgot that he's one of Michael Cohen's clients. Oh, right, you're right, Gabby, I forgot too. She said, I will laugh so hard if Hannity gets taken down by his man crush, Trump's Hindenburg-esque implosion. Oh, man, if Hannity goes down, sprinkle that one on top. Nice icing on the cake. Lock him up. By the way, I don't even know what Hannity did. Just lock him up anyway. Okay. See, we're kidding. We don't actually think you should lock him up if you don't know what he did. Okay, Wesley Talbot says, how about that? NPR just used a clip of Cenk from earlier this week talking about Trump. Did a pretty good job on his name too. Well, tip of the hat to NPR there then. Okay, Ray Johnson says, I can't muster the same excitement you guys have for impeachment. Good if it happens, but the next day people care less about POTUS actions, and we have Pence, who's a true zealot, not just a lucky, dumb crook. What are your thoughts on what happens next? Okay, so you know what? Let's talk about that a little bit in the postgame, okay? Because that's a long topic. John's with me in the second hour, and he'll be with me in the postgame. So let's pick that topic up now that President Pence is more likely. So it's complicated. Good news, bad news. I think overall, though, it doesn't really matter because you got to do what you got to do. I mean, even if I thought Pence was way worse than Donald Trump, if he's broken the laws, there's got to be consequences. There's no way around that. But we will talk about consequences if that were to happen. And I know now we're getting a little too ahead of ourselves, but we'll talk about it in the postgame. tyt.com/join to become a member and get the postgames, old school, and all the other fun shows that we do. Speaking of fun shows that we do you guys know about our podcasts? We've got a great podcast network. You can check it out at tyt.com/audio. And you can also check it out on our app. We the People with Nina Turner is an excellent podcast that we have. She recently did an episode that combined a lot of her guests, including Susan Sarandon, Bernie Sanders, and so many other great guests that she's got on. So please check out that podcast as well, tyt.com/audio. I have an exciting announcement about podcasts in the next segment. And tonight for the members, we have an exciting announcement ahead of everyone else about something we're doing tomorrow. Ooh, lots of drops in the post game. tyt.com/join. All right, now let's go over here. Paris Dennard is a Donald Trump supporter. He's been on TV literally over 100 times. And guess what? It's shocking. Turns out he thinks Donald Trump is right every time. And I got no use for him. I got no love for him. And that's very important to this story because at the end, I'm going to agree with him on something that is a little disturbing. First, you will hear other disturbing things. So who is he? Just if you don't know him, and there's no reason why you would have known him before this, but he's actually been around in Republican politics a long time. And it's actually kind of a sad story about how Republicans find some minorities and basically pay them their whole lives to tell us how bad other minorities are. So he actually gave a speech at the RNC when he was a teenager. And Dick Cheney was in the audience, applauded, hey, way to go. And so what did he do? He eventually started working for the Bush White House. And there he was working as their advance team and then had been named to the White House outreach director to the black community. So here's a black Republican who thinks Republicans are awesome. Come on, blacks. Yeah, oh, yeah. And then, okay, that's fine. And then he went on to support Donald Trump enthusiastically during the campaign, all over television, et cetera. And one of the things that, of course, he defended Donald Trump on was his record on rolling back race admission policies. So you don't want to send a white guy out there to say how bad affirmative action is. So you send Paris Dennard out there. And he goes, oh, yeah, it's really bad, really bad. We shouldn't be giving that to minorities. And he was rewarded in December when he was appointed to the Commission on White House Fellowships. And this is how it works. Now, by the way, let's just note for the record, progressives have an incredibly difficult time getting on cable news. If you're a Bernie Sanders supporter, not if you're a Hillary Clinton supporter. I mean, then no, you're all over cable news. There's no end to it, right? But if you support the Sanders wing, good luck to you, brother. But a guy like Paris Dennard, to do those talking points for the Republicans, will be invited back on hundreds of times. So as you can tell, I got no interest in Paris Dennard. I'm opposed to him enthusiastically and fervently. Okay, so why is he in the news today? Well, for a couple of reasons. A couple of days ago, we showed you on the show blow up he had with Phil Mudd, who is a former FBI and CIA employee. So on Monday, as the Washington Post explains, Dennard drew praise from Trump for a heated exchange on CNN with Philip Mudd, a former counterterrorism official with the CIA and the FBI. Mudd grew visibly angry during the exchange when Dennard accused officials such as him and former CIA Director John Brennan of profiting from their security clearances after leaving government. And there, we explain that while we don't agree with Dennard on anything else, there is some truth that people leave government with a security clearance. And Philip Mudd said, hey, I don't get paid by the government anymore. That's true, but that gives them clout, and then they are hired by other private companies because of that clout. So they do profit from it. And in fact, when John Brennan's security clearance was taken away, which was, by the way, a terrible thing that Donald Trump did, but when he took it away, all of a sudden, some of the other people got scared. Not Philip Mudd, to give him credit for being strong and brave on that issue, but guys like James Clapper all of a sudden were like, well, I think it's kind of Brennan's fault. Oh, the cowardice is unbelievable. But do they profit generally by having that status? Yes, they do. Now, all of a sudden, he's back in the news, Paris Dennard is. Why? Because the Washington Post just somehow happened to land a story about something really, really damaging in his past. So turns out he was working at Arizona State, and this is what happened. Pick it up with the Washington Post. An internal investigation by the university concluded that Paris Dennard, a surrogate during the campaign and now a member of the president's commission on White House fellowships, told a recent college graduate who worked for him that he wanted to have sex with her. He, quote, pretended to unzip his pants in her presence, tried to get her to sit on his lap, and made masturbatory gestures, according to the university report obtained by the Washington Post. Now that is all crazy, terrible, unacceptable. And he was fired. But look, I want to give you more context, and none of it is good. Before I tell you why on God's green earth, I might in any way understand a point that this guy is making. So we'll get to that at the end. First, more terrible stuff. Dennard also admitted touching the first woman's neck with his tongue. Ugh. According to the report, in that instance, Dennard came up behind employee 1 during another McCain Institute event, that's where he was working, and whispered in her ear that he wanted to F her. Okay. Now, if all of that wasn't bad enough, this is the part that I thought was the worst. So, I mean, I don't know how much worse it can get than, the whole thing with the sit on my lap and the neck on the tongue, but okay. But one of the women said, look, they said, apparently they're unbelievably fair people, and they said, I'm not sure we want him to get fired, but they went on to say, we all know what it's like to be on Dennard's bad side. He will make your life miserable. What if he comes back to the office? What if he comes to an event? Does he know where I live? Oh, he's got to go. No. Women at the office are afraid that he'll come to their house. So Arizona State did the right thing. They fired him, okay? And did he acknowledge these things actually happened? Well, I'll give you context on that too. He said he had not seen the full report and was led to believe it was sealed and proprietary. He did it. Okay, when you say well, I didn't see the whole thing, but hey, that was supposed to be secret. Well, okay, then you knew, and as the report indicates, they did talk to him, he did participate. He went on to say, I cannot comment on items I have never seen regarding allegations I still believe to be false. Not buying it. So, what's the only part that I agree with him on? He said at the end, this is sadly another politically motivated attempt to besmirch my character and shame me into silence for my support of President Trump and the GOP. Now, look, I don't know if it's to quiet him on his support of Donald Trump. But here is a guy who went after someone who worked in the intelligence community on national television and arguably embarrassed them. And a lot of people in the establishment in Washington make money off of that racket of, hey, I used to work in the government. Now then they go and become lobbyists, lawyers, consultants, employees, on and on it goes for all these corporations that then benefit from the government. A guy points it out on TV, a guy I don't agree with at all, and all of a sudden, a couple of days later, hey, they found an old story about how he did sexual harassment and got fired. Do you think that's a coincidence? I got news for you, and this is what the reporters never tell you, what they never tell you on television. It is not a coincidence. So it's called oppo research. It's normally done in political campaigns. You do opposition research against the other person, and all of a sudden, all sorts of bad stories start coming out about him just in time for the campaign. What a lucky break that was. And oftentimes these are fed to the reporters. Now, it doesn't mean that it's particularly nefarious, and it definitely doesn't mean they made it up. It appears to be very, very true. And so do I shed a tear for Paris Dennard overall? No, and he is suspended by CNN as they now begin an investigation of him since he's a contributor there and appears on their air regularly. So I got, again, for the 18th time, not only do I not want to defend him overall, I disagree with him completely, and I think what he did was atrocious. But we have to note for the record why this story comes out at a time that it does. Now, if I were to say it about an ally, a political ally of ours, you might question and go, oh, Cenk, you're just covering up for him. As you can tell, I have no interest in covering up for Dennard, and I think he's a terrible guy. But understand, and this is part of what we do here. One, we're honest with you, no matter who it is and what the situation is. And number two, we try to give you context for the news. So when a reporter gets a story like this fed to him by God knows who, He doesn't tell you, oh, by the way, this guy who's friends with Philip Mudd gave me this information. I looked it up. It turns out it's true. That's why I wrote it. Ha ha, they buried him. He doesn't give you that context. That's our job. He might have deserved it, but he did get buried, and he very likely got buried because of what he said about Philip Mudd. And that's how Washington works. Young Turks. Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.